You're all set, ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right, let's call the meeting to order. Good evening, all. It is now 7:31 p.m. It is February 12th, 2025. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board is being held remotely and
Listen to
recorded
the
via
first
Zoom
5 minutes.
due to Borough Council chambers unavailability. It is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of this remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely.
That story while they're doing their walk that. So that's
Whoever's in a crowd, if you could just mute yourself.
Okay, so Diane, teach that to them.
I think it's Lisa because her little box is lighting up.
At least, there we go. Okay. Notice of this remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in and login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address clearly prior to making a public comment. And with that, I will turn it to our counsel, Mr. Stewart, if you would kindly call the roll, please.
Absolutely. If I mispronounce anyone's name, I apologize in advance. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Caslin?
Here.
Ms. Boland?
Here.
Mr. Gaudier?
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Here.
Mr. Cray?
Here.
Mr. Chinigo?
Here.
Councilman Glass?
Here.
Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
Mr. Salva?
Here.
Mr. Depkin?
Here.
Mr. Behrens? Mr. Behrens?
Trying to find that mute button here. Thank you.
And Mr. Costa?
This is me, Jason Flores. I'm covering Mr. Costa for tonight's meeting.
Okay, everyone's here.
Good job, Mr. Stewart. You got everybody's name pretty close. With that, the first item on our agenda this evening is under the approval of minutes. A set of minutes from our January 22nd meeting was circulated to the board prior to this evening's meeting. For review, I open it to the board for questions or comments on the draft minutes. There being none, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes as drafted.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a
Second.
I think Mr. Gaudier as a second. Mr. Stewart, just confirm, I believe both Ms. Boland and Mr. Gaudier were present at the last meeting, so that.
Yes, they were.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve the minutes in a second. We do a roll call.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Caslin?
Yes.
Ms. Boland?
Yes.
Mr. Gaudier?
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Yes.
Mr. Cray?
Yes.
Mr. Chinigo?
Yes.
Councilman Glass?
Abstain. I just didn't have a chance this time to do a thorough review. I apologize.
All right. Mr. Gibbons?
Yes.
Mr. Salva?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And we're going to move on to our next item, excuse me, on the agenda this evening under discussion. And the formation of an affordable housing subcommittee in the borough. And the borough is looking for 2 members of the land use board to serve on this subcommittee of the mayor and council. Mr. Mayor, I'll turn to you if you have any statements you'd like to make on this.
Sure.
the state legislature passed a new set of statutes regarding affordable housing. We are in what's sometimes referred to as round 4. So these laws have been created partly because of the New Jersey Supreme Court's decisions about land use and the state legislature's response to that. These laws have very tight deadlines for municipalities, all 564 of them in New Jersey, 70 in Bergen County. And as such, we need to form a committee. The committee will have a limited role in that its duties won't really last more than this year, as I understand it, though that may change. The members cannot come from, because I'm already on it, it can't be Councilman Glass. So we're looking for 2 members who would be a part of this somewhat of an ad hoc committee to review what the state is requiring of River Edge, so that River Edge may submit it to the state according to the deadlines the state has already created. If somebody has a question other than that, they can pose it towards me, but I don't know how much I'll be able to answer. Tom Barings actually might be able to give a much more informative answer.
Right. So Mayor, just to follow up, I think that was a great summary. So just so everyone's aware, the full land use board acting as a planning board will be responsible for adopting the borough's 4th round affordable housing plan no later than June 30th, 2025. That's a state requirement. So the purpose of the subcommittee is to sort of streamline the information that would go to the board and vet certain, we'll call them preliminary issues, and doing some background data research, et cetera. But ultimately, it will be the full complement of the board that reviews and vets these things and makes certain decisions as far as how the borough is going to satisfy its 4th round affordable housing obligation. So I would assume we would have periodic meetings with the subcommittee, maybe once or twice a month, at least initially. And again, this would be in an effort to prepare the planning board to do what it has to do in ultimately preparing and adopting a housing plan. So that there would be some extra amount of time commitment. Might be a little interesting for those interested in the topic and just, that have some knowledge of the borough and, how it's been developed in the past. So, but if anyone has any questions, like the mayor said, be glad to answer now or offline.
Also want to add that I've not spoken to anyone on the land use board prior to this meeting, so it really is open to every member of the land use board with the exception of Councilman Glass. And of course myself, because we're already legislative, the council body, and therefore it would be 2 people who were not us.
Okay. With that, I'll open to the board for any questions for either Mr. Barons or the mayor. And if there's expressions of interest from anybody, any members of the board who would be willing to serve on the subcommittee.
I'd be willing to serve, but if somebody else would rather, I don't need to serve, but I'll put myself out there. But if anybody else would rather, please jump in.
Appreciate that, Mr. King. I think we need 2 people, so that's 1. Would anybody else? Mr. Gibbons looks like he's.
I'd be willing to help if we have not enough. Sure.
All right. So as far as formality goes, I don't know if we need to take a vote on that. I think it's just a.
Why don't we do an informal, I nominate Ryan Gibbons and Dario Canigo. Is there a second? I'm sorry.
Second. Yeah, I'll second that, yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion for nomination for Mr. Mayor and Mr. Gautier, and I think we can just do a voice vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, congratulations, and we appreciate you stepping up to fulfill the role.
If a memo or an email can be sent to Lizette Apatella, our business administrator, stating that these are the individuals, and to the clerk and Dodd, that would, memorialize it, and we appreciate that.
Mr. Alter, would you be able to take care of that for us?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to move along, and then on our agenda for the evening, we're going to move now into memorializations. The first memorialization is for I Chihuahua Restaurant. We have a draft resolution granting site plan approval with variance relief for a retail food establishment. The property is 637 Kinderkmack Road. This is block 614, lot 802. Draft of the resolution was circulated for review prior to this evening's meeting, and I open it to the board for comments or questions on the draft of the resolution. There being none, I will look for a motion on the resolution, please.
So moved?
Thank you, Ms.
Second.
Boland. Thank you. I think it was Mr. Gaudier. Mr. Stewart, when you're ready, you can call those who are eligible.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Gaudier, Mr. Gaudier,
Looks like he's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, do you hear me? Yes.
okay. Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kanigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Chris, you're muted.
No, I don't
think so. Can you hear me?
No, different Chris. It was me. Sorry.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Next item on our agenda is Eugene and Angela Gazenput. Property is 830 Summit Avenue. This is block 206, lot 16. The board received correspondence from the applicant's counsel last week seeking to withdraw their application and have it dismissed without prejudice. We have a resolution to provide for same that was circulated for review prior to this evening's meeting. Open it to the board for comments or questions on that resolution. There being none, I'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, I think I've got Mr. Cray on a first, and
I'll second.
I'll take Mr. Gibbons on a second. Mr. Stewart, when you're ready.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
I abstain. I don't think I'm eligible. This is a prior meeting. It wasn't the last meeting. Am I right?
No, I think this was the last.
No, it was 2 meetings
It was
ago.
2 meetings ago.
Might have been 2 ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I abstain.
Okay.
okay. Mr. Gaudier,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kanigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
and Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And our final item on the memorialization for the evening, we have a resolution seeking authorization and direction for the board to sign on as a party to a developers agreement concerning a prior application the board heard. The applicant is Quality Home Developers LLC. The property is 312 Webb Avenue, block 301, lot 12. A draft of both the resolution and the developers agreement was circulated for review. Open it up to the board for comments or questions on either of those documents. There being none, I'll look for a motion to approve, please.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Mr. Mayor,
You're muted. Yep.
Yes.
okay, Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Gaudier,
Abstain.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kenigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
and Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to move now into the completeness review section of our agenda for this evening. The applicant is the Rosenbaum Yeshiva of North Jersey. Property is 666 Kinderkmack Road, Block 616, Lot 9. Application seeking approval for a proposed fence of 6-foot height, which is not permitted per the code. Mr. Stewart, I would ask if you could start us off.
So I'm going to swear in.
Well, hold on, we're just doing completeness now, so I just want to make sure that we've got the proper notices were circulated.
Completeness review.
Hi, Chris. This is Marina. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. I
we-
can't see you.
Yes.
we- You're coming up as the
Sorry,
Borough
I'm
River Edge,
just-
yeah.
I'm just leaving another meeting, but our office did review the proofs and they are sufficient for the board to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Steinley. I'm gonna move now to Mr. Behrens.
Yes, good evening. So from a completeness perspective, the application is in some ways simply for the installation of a fence. So we have a survey which delineates the proposed locations of the fence. We have fence specifications and some other information that's been submitted by the applicant. So I believe the board has enough to proceed this evening with the fence application.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Depkin, any input from you?
No objection to continue.
Okay, thank you, sir. And Mr. Flores?
Good evening, Chairman, board, planning board members. Yes, our office reviewed the site plan that clearly delineate the fence that the applicant is proposing. We also review our letter of denial prepared by Mr. Depkins, the memorandum from our planner, Tom Behrens, and a couple the details and pictures of the property and the rendering of the proposed fence and the details of the proposed fence that they're proposing, and is sufficient for the board to proceed with, to hearing the application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flores. Questions or comments from the board as to completeness? Okay, I will look for a motion then to deem the application complete.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Mr. Stewart, when you're ready.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Gaudier,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kenigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
and Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're gonna move now under new business on our agenda. This applicant is Rosenbaum Yeshiva of North Jersey. The property is 666 Kinderkmack Road, Block 616, Lot 9. Applicant is seeking approval for the installation of a proposed fence in excess of the permitted height. I believe we have Mr. Barrett. I saw you. You're
Yes,
here.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. Fine, thank you.
Would you care to make an opening statement?
Just briefly, the primary purpose of the fence is for security. And so we have with us tonight, Mr. Joe Staros, who will be testifying as to the security concerns and the proposed remedy to those concerns, or at least to alleviate some of them. I also have with me tonight from the yeshiva, Mr. Jurgensen, because we had the opportunity to review Mr. Barron's comments, and so we're able to address some of those in terms of the placement of the fence. I also have the head of security from the yeshiva, Mr. Cardone. I don't see him on here, but I believe the contractor, Mr. Antonocci, is here. Maybe. And of course, Rabbi Claire from the yeshiva itself. But I would like to start with Mr. Staros, although I don't see him. But I have a limited number of people here.
He's on as a panelist that needs to be invited. into, or excuse me, the other way around. He's an attendee that needs to be a panelist.
Oh, okay. How do we-
So Tom Stewart, I don't know if you've got control of the meeting, or Ed, if you can bring him in.
It has to be Tom.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could you tell me the name one more time?
Joe Starost, Starost.
I'll bring him in here.
And there was one more person I think that Mr. Barrett mentioned was the contractor.
Right, Mr. Antonacci.
Is he in as a?
Is he under Bruno? Is that his first name?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I don't see him in there then.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we go ahead? Well, let's get everybody sworn in who's going to give testimony this evening.
Right, so that would include everybody named, and then, of course, the rabbi.
Okay, so anyone who's going to be testifying, the witnesses and the experts, please put your video on and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. I do.
Okay. And Mr. Jurgensen, can you please state your full name and address for the record?
My full name is Christian H. Jurgensen IV. My address is 513 Charles Street, New Milford, New Jersey, 07646.
And are you here as a security expert?
No. I'm the superintendent of buildings and grounds at the school. I've been here for 10.5 years.
Okay. And do you have a New Jersey license in good standing?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then I think we also have to get Mr. Starost and the rabbi
Right, and Mr. Cardone.
and Mr. Cardone.
We'll do Mr. Cardone. Mr. Cardone, can you please state your full name and address for the record? I
You're
think you're on
muted.
mute.
Paul, you're muted.
I'll prompt the unmute.
There we go.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul Robert Cardone, 1 Peachtree Lane, North Haledon, New Jersey, 07508.
Can you briefly please state your experience for the record?
I have 29 years of law enforcement experience. I'm a retired detective lieutenant from the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, and I have 19 years of security experience with the yeshiva.
Okay. Rabbi?
Thank you so much. Ephraim Clare, I live at 35 Hallberg, Bergenfield. This is my 11th year at the yeshiva as the executive director, formerly as a teacher and director of operations.
Thank you. And I believe there was one more.
Yeah, Mr. Starost. Mr. Starost, I think we have to fix your camera. It looks like it's coming up as a.
Yeah, for some reason I'm not able to fire up my camera. It's not giving me any options to do so.
Are you on a phone or a computer?
Computer.
On the bottom left, there should be a black bar that has audio, video, and then some other icons.
Yeah, I have audio, microphone, speaker. I don't have any camera settings.
If you can't access the camera, that's okay. Just provide your information for the record for right now, and we'll try to sort it out before you get your testimony on the record. Okay.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. My name is Joseph Starost. My experience is actually, I live at 247 Manning Avenue in the borough of River Edge. My experience is 27.5 years as a law enforcement officer with the borough of River Edge. Retired in 2024 as a patrol division commander. I've been working at the yeshiva as a security guard for the past 11 months. During my time as a police officer with the Borough of River Edge. I was active school shooter instructor for the borough officers. And I've done numerous security threat assessment walkthroughs with the yeshiva, with St. Peter's Church, as well as Temple Avodat Shalom.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good evening, all. Mr. Barrett, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, so maybe we're gonna try and help Mr. Staros with his camera. Is it possible that what are you on a laptop, Joe?
I am on a laptop, correct. I selected my my camera to work, and for some reason it is not.
You might just have to exit the meeting and come back in. Mr. Barrett, if you could proceed with someone else first, that would be better.
Surely, all right. Let me go then to Mr. Jurgens. Jurgensen, sorry, it's close. So we've had the opportunity to meet, and you reviewed the comments from Mr. Behrens with respect to the placement of the fence. I think for the board has a copy of the plans. I think for simplicity's sake, we divide the fence into 3 sections. We have a south section, which is that closest to the post office. We have the central section, which is in front of the main building of the yeshiva. And then we have the north section, which is in front of the new addition, probably 10 years old or more. And also adjacent to the office building, which in turn is just south of the Chase building. So we had the opportunity to discuss the comments, as in particular, the fact that the southwest corner of the site, the fence was shown as on an angle, and that would be closest to the post office. Correct?
Yes.
So it was originally shown at an angle. Will there be any problem with having that rear line parallel to the front lot line?
I don't think it'll be a problem at all.
And in addition, there was a concern raised, excuse me, about sight distances for the cars that are exiting. How far back can the fence go and still serve its purpose of providing security to the children, and also afford adequate sight distance for those exiting the site?
I would say 30 to 40 feet, approximately.
Okay, can you say without a doubt it's a minimum of 30 feet?
That could be done. Anything could be done.
I understand, but you see, the board needs to deal in certainties rather than approximations when we're talking, a difference of 10 feet. So, still serving its purpose, how far off of the sidewalk, which is within the boundary lines of the property, how far back do you think the fence could be located, and again, still serve its purpose?
Oh, you said a magic word. You said you think.
I'm sorry.
Hang on one second. Okay, yeah, we have about 30 feet, definitely.
Okay, and so versus what was shown on the plan, Tom Behrens, could you share the plan? Maybe we could.
Yeah, I think we need some clarification what that 30 feet means.
Right.
So I will share, and then
Thank
you
you.
guys can try to
I
help
appreciate
us react to that. So bear with me while I attempt to share my screen.
Someday maybe you can teach me how to do that.
We could do that. Absolutely. All right. So the point of concern, if you can bear with me, is this area right here. We have an egress driveway, and we have an very active, I would call it, pedestrian public sidewalk that people traverse, during most of the year. And as proposed, the fence would sort of abut the driveway and the sidewalk and come right to the intersection of where the driveway meets the sidewalk, where it goes up a hill. And I think it's just an obvious conflict point, and we want to keep everyone safe. I think it's a legitimate safety concern. So the proposal is to move the fence back by some amount it's not clear to me what that means as compared to what's shown presently.
But I thought that the place where it could be moved would be on what I call the southern portion, so
Okay.
closest to the post office,
Okay.
because that's where the interference would come.
Well,
Because
okay,
you're
sorry,
limited
continue.
to, you're limited to a right-hand turn. And so it'd be traffic traveling northbound that you want to have a clear vision of, as well as the pedestrians themselves.
So what I'm hearing is this line that's at an angle to Kinderkamak would be made parallel and brought back to the 30-foot setback. That's one thing. My primary concern was this conflict point where if somebody's coming up a hill, maybe quickly, and maybe the coast is clear as far as vehicular traffic, but if there's somebody walking or on a bike coming southbound on the sidewalk, that I wouldn't want there to be a collision point here. I'm not an engineer. There's a few engineers on the call, but again, the vehicles would be going up the hill. There would be a 6-foot fence adjacent to the driveway and also a 6-foot fence that pretty much goes the length of the sidewalk. And I think it might be tough at times simply to see people walking or biking down that sidewalk.
So do you think,
Go ahead.
do you think just at the corner of the, just above where it says proposed gate, just that portion could be pulled back a little bit? Because again, we have the steep slope that has to be dealt with.
I think you can offer that as a solution. Again, I would ask the engineers to opine as to what I'm a planner. Sometimes I delve into that realm and I shouldn't. So that seems to be a possible solution. And the concern, Tom, I think you're raising is that this, we'll call it the middle segment of the fence, is proposed essentially along the trees and the bollards. The reason being that there's a steep slope, and to bring it back would be too close to the school. I think that's your position. So,
well, and also, Mr. Staros will testify that it would lose some of its effectiveness because you no
Okay.
longer have the height, although it would still be 6 feet.
Right.
Because of the steep grade, you've effectively lost some of the height.
right. All right. So just to refold one thing at a time, what you're
Sure.
saying is, at least as far as this issue is concerned, you'd be open to, we'll say, I don't know, angling the fence or cutting it off, but bringing it further away from that intersection, that conflict point is.
Yeah, that section there, yes. Whatever we could, because again,
Right.
the Yeshiva has always been a good neighbor, wants to continue to be a good neighbor. And
Right.
whatever we can do that still, again, serves the purpose of, safety to the school children, we're more than happy to, accomplish.
Okay, so I think we'll move on from that and maybe let the board react to that and go through your various professionals and we can circle back to what the specifics of that ought to be. But it's good to hear that there's some amount of flexibility to resolve that issue. So,
Yes.
all right, I'll turn it back over to you. Is there need to share the survey?
The plan, I don't think so.
All right. Well, if need be, I can pop it back up. So,
Thank you.
if you could please continue.
Yes, sir. So I think that I'm finished with Mr. Jurgensen because he's the, oh, actually not. Because I know there were some questions raised by Mr. Costa in his report of January 16th. And those concerns were, okay, so the concern was to specify where the power source is, such as connection to the main electrical system. So perhaps you could, Mr. Jurgens, you could tell the board how it is that these, the gates, which I understand will be sliding gates, how they would be powered.
All right, the power's gonna come off the main building. The boxes are gonna be supplied by the fencing company. They already showed me the box. They showed me a picture of the box. I'm gonna supply power to the box. I'm also gonna do the pipe run's gonna get done underneath the driveway. It's gonna get trenched. It's gonna be 30 inches down. It's gonna have 6 inches of sand underneath it. 3/4 inch PVC pipe And then another 6 inches of sand on top of it, because we got to cut across the driveway on both sides. So there's an excavator, or there's a company who's working with the fence company who's going to do the excavating and the digging. I'm going to do the PVC work. I'm also a licensed electrician. I'm licensed and insured in the state of New Jersey. License number 12282B. And I'm going to do, everything's going to get done. Everything will have the permits. It'll be 30 inches down, 3/4 inch PVC. The main boxes on both sides, the gate on the entry and the gate on the exit, they're going to be mounted. Those control boxes will be mounted right onto the building. And then the PVC work will go down and go out to the fence motors and sensors and relays and whatever else they want to do.
Okay, so essentially all of the equipment is outside.
It's outside. The electric comes from the main distribution panel, which is in the building. Everything will be done according to code, the National Electrical Code. And yeah, the main boxes will be mounted on the building. They're not going to be freestanding out by the gates. The control boxes will be on the building. They'll both be coming from the same location. It's going to be a Cat 6 going out there. And there's also going to be a 120 volt circuit going out there, arc fault GFI protection. And pretty much that's it. 3/4 inch PVC with expansion joints also.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Jurgensen is available for questioning either now or after other testimony. It's up to the board, however they'd like to.
Why don't we keep, we'll keep going, Mr. Barrett. We'll get the full picture and then we can circle back.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just had Mr. Staros. We've lost him. There he is. He's coming back. All right.
Yeah, I logged on my phone. It was just a little bit easier, I guess. So here I am.
Very good. Thank you. Have you been sworn in yet?
I don't believe I have.
Okay.
Mr. Stewart, when you have a chance.
Sure. Mr. Staros, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Please state your full name and address for the record.
Joseph Starost, 247 Manning Avenue, Borough of River Edge.
And please briefly explain your experience.
27 and a half year law enforcement experience with the Borough of River Edge. Retired last year as Patrol Division Lieutenant. During that time, I was active school shooter instructor for the Borough of River Edge. I also had the opportunity to do many site risk security evaluations for the yeshiva, as well as St. Peter's Church and the Temple Avodat Shalom.
Thank you.
I'm currently employed by Associates Security Company, which is contracted to secure, have a security presence for the yeshiva.
Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Staros, during your time with the River Edge Police Department, did you have the opportunity to serve on the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office Intelligence and Counterterrorism Unit, or to assist them in evaluating the yeshiva?
So yeah, at least twice during my tenure.
And what were the findings of the prosecutor's office?
Prosecutor's office, they had numerous suggestions, as well as I did, for better securing the property and having us actually have these students in a safer environment. Obviously, numerous different measures were discussed. One of them was a fence. So
you're aware of the fact that the proposal is for a 6-foot fence, which is contrary to the ordinances in River Edge, which limits it to, I believe, a 4-foot fence in the front yard. Why is a fence of that height necessary?
Well, based on current geopolitical factors, right? We all know fences are can be many different things. They can be aesthetically pleasing. They can delineate property, but plain and simple, for this purpose, fences are a deterrent, right? It's not the be all to end all, but it's a valuable piece of the puzzle, coupled along with surveillance and a security team, right? That provides a sound and secure environment for our clients, staff, and students.
So and again, why a 6-foot fence versus say a 4-foot fence?
A 4-foot fence for this would serve no purpose. A 4-foot fence is easily vaulted. Most people can step over a 4-foot with little problem. We're looking to actually make it difficult and real deterrent to have not people just be able to just step over a fence.
Okay, and you're familiar with how the fence is going to operate. I don't mean to steal the rabbi's thunder, but are you aware of the planned usage of the gates that will be part of the fence installation?
Yes, sir, I am.
And what is the plan for that?
The plan will be to have the gates secured while students are on the premise and in the buildings. I'm told that when they're not when school is not in session and the students are not in the building, the fences will be in the open position. Actually, the entranceways will be in the open position.
So in other words, it's only when school is actually in session, not, of course, during the time the children are being dropped off or the school
Correct.
buses are
Yes.
arriving.
Correct. Right.
So there'd be no impediment to traffic in any way.
No, the gates will be wide open, both coming and going during that period of time,
Okay.
both for dismissal and arrivals.
And so at the end of the day, when the children are gone, the gates are open.
Correct.
Okay. And you've heard the discussion regarding the, I know it's not your particular area of expertise, but, attempting to really relocate the fence a little bit to give a greater sight distance for the pedestrians who are traveling north to south.
Right.
So passing the building, going towards the post office, so that somebody exiting would be able to see them as well as anybody coming from the
Right.
south to the north.
During my tenure as a police officer, I did many presentations for the council at that time for line of sight distances, for parking violations and parking ordinances that would restrict parking between a certain footage from the apex of the intersection in order to try to make people have people safe when traversing the roadway, as well as pedestrians on the roadway. But it's not really my area of expertise, but I am familiar with sightline issues.
And you feel, I made a suggestion that perhaps just that one section could be pulled back a little bit, where it's closest to the driveway, just to increase that sight distance.
As you know, the exit area for the yeshiva is at quite a steep angle. I don't
Yes.
have a degree of grade, but it is quite a steep angle. The more setback you give, you'll give up in fence height. You'll be able to see over the fence and actually be close to being seen over the fence, because that property does drop off so quickly from that area. But I think a compromise can be had as far as maybe an angle to increase sightline from where the fence would actually be to where it actually joins the to run parallel with Kinderkamak Road. I think there's probably some give and take that can be done there.
So perhaps, and again, with the rabbi's permission, Mr. Chairman, perhaps, Mr. Costa's office could have a representative along with Mr. Staros, and, we could come up with a solution that addresses everybody's needs, assuming the board sees fit to grant an approval.
I've in my tenure, I've worked very closely with Mr. Costa and his crew, and his staff. So that would be a pleasure to reacquaint.
Oh, so again, if we're successful tonight, Mr. Chairman, that could certainly be a condition of approval.
Okay, we can take that under consideration.
Can I opine on something? So Kinderkamak is a county road, right? I just want to. I'm not sure if this is Mr. Staros. How you doing, by the way? Long time no see. I don't know if he's testifying on this, or you're gonna have an engineer testifying. I just want to know if you have applied for maybe a planning board approval from the county as an exception, or maybe just to get a letter from the county saying that they're exempt from planning board review, just to put the fence in there.
We have not yet applied, but again, that could be a condition if the board saw fit to approve.
Okay, yeah, just because the county maybe like 2 years ago, they just come out with this new rule that, even though if you're not improving the site or you're improving the site, if you're in a county road now, you're supposed to do a design certification for site distances. So that's something that might help too as well. I mean, if it's get approved by the county, then, the town can take that in advice and then take that consideration of the county as well.
No problem. I have nothing further from Mr. Staros, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. You have, is the rabbi going to be testifying?
He is.
Okay. We proceed?
So we don't think we have Mr. Antonacci here.
It doesn't appear so.
Okay. Rabbi, you're up.
Thank you, Tom.
Now you were sworn though. Okay, so why don't you, the board has heard from Mr. Staros, it's heard from Mr. Jurgensen. As the executive director of the yeshiva, how did you get to this point? With the fence and everything else.
At the risk of being redundant, part of our application process for our FEMA Homeland Security grant was applying for a vulnerability and risk assessment from the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security, done by Bill Stallone, who's at the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor's office sends a representative, along with the River Edge Police Department, provide a report about the potential vulnerabilities of the site, in which, like the former lieutenant said, included many things. One of the main vulnerabilities that they pointed out was the open ingress access from the far west side of the property, being that we have classroom windows that face the street and that we have a very long frontage that can be very easily walked into by anyone, which, as the police department can attest, has happened on numerous occasions. Thank God everything's been fine, but it makes surveillance and protection very difficult. So we applied for the grant under the auspices of the Office of New Jersey's Homeland Security. They found that we were in fact vulnerable and granted us this state and federal grant in order to resolve those vulnerabilities. That's something obviously we worked closely with the River Edge Police Department. We consider them very, very important partners in everything that we do, keeping our children safe, and we do whatever we can to help make our police officers feel like they can rely on us and vice versa. And it was with their guidance that we decided that a fence was an appropriate step to take in order to properly secure our facility from threats.
And how did you come to choose the particular fence model that's shown on the specifications that were submitted?
Those came at a recommendation, aluminum versus chain link. It's much sturdier. It's much more difficult to traverse, as the lieutenant can attest, as well as aesthetically much nicer than chain link. Obviously a lot more expensive. Thankfully, the grant will pay for that fence because it is very secure. But that was part of the recommendation. Obviously, chain link would be we'll call it tier 2, but they considered aluminum fencing tier 1 in terms of safety and security.
And then have you had discussions? I know we saw a letter from the chief that he had met with, I presume yourself. So if you could just advise the board, how will the emergency personnel gain access to the site, both during school hours and then after school hours?
So as mentioned, our relationship with the police department is excellent. We have members of the police department. We had a member of the police department today in school supervising our safety and security drills. Lieutenant Zemides is always a partner of ours, and we have given every police officer's patrol car. Actually, this was something that Joe organized. Every patrol car has access control fobs as well as access keys that can get them into the building both digitally and manually if need be. The same access will be granted for the fence. It'll have the same type of access control. But just as a reminder, the fence will only need to be opened while school is in session, and per our procedures and policies, while school is in session, we have security on staff. So there should not be a situation in which the police need to enter the property when there's no one to let them in. So either the gates are already open because it's after hours, or if the gates are closed, then security should be on site. Regardless, they'll still have key fobs and manual keys from us in order to enter whenever needed. Same goes for the fire department. We also have a very, very close relationship with the River Edge Fire Department, with Rob Schlossberg. They just ran a whole set of emergency drills at our school. They're planning on running another on March 1st. we deeply value their relationship, and we reached out to them immediately to say, you know, are you okay with this? Do you have any thoughts? And they were, both Chief Walker and Chief Schlossberg were both granted us their blessings. So
Thank you, Rabbi. And you heard the discussion about attempting to accommodate the concern about the site distance.
yeah, I just would echo Joe's concerns about the grade. I'm just to clarify one point. If Tom, if maybe you can, Tom Behrens, if you could just clarify, is the concern the swinging pedestrian egress gate going into pedestrian traffic, or is it just that the cars pulling out won't be able to see the traffic moving, the pedestrian traffic moving southward?
It's mostly the pedestrian traffic. The gate swinging, I didn't even occur to me, I'll be honest. It just had to do with vehicles going up the steep incline and just frankly not being able, I mean, in the summer, kids walk to the swim club. I don't want to create one safety issue, you know, by solving another one. So I think there's an opportunity to address your concern about having the fence be functional as far as a security deterrent, and also create more visibility for kids and anybody that's walking, biking, scooting at variable speeds down the sidewalk. Again, don't want to play engineer. I think Mr. Jason's comment about getting the county's review about the site distance issue seems to make sense, but I just some amount of distance between the conflict point, I think would seem to help. Again, I don't want to be an expert. I'll let the engineers figure out what makes the most sense for everybody. I just wanted to point out that one.
We're happy to walk with them.
Great. I appreciate
I want to pop the diagram for 1 second. Maybe we can just clarify exactly where that point is that you're worried about.
Yeah, sure. And maybe others aren't worried about it. That's entirely a possibility also.
I can share.
All right. Oh, sorry. Jason, why don't you share? Maybe you can give us some.
Yeah, sure.
Thoughts.
Let me see. Am I allowed to share? If somebody can give me access to the second computer that I'm signed in as Jason Flores computer. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Perfect. So let me share my screen. Can everybody see this Google Earth? The street view image?
Yes.
So the point that we're reference with Tom references this specific point right here, where this car is. If you can see it now, you know, luckily for us, for the convenience of this meeting, somebody took a snapshot of the car stopping right before by the crosswalk and trying to make a right turn into Kinderkamak. So that's a specific point that Mr. Bering is referring. And if I go to the plan, that's the point right here.
So would it be this fence that you would want moved, or this portion?
That portion right there. That's a specific portion, because that's technically what is going to affect your site distance, which will be where is the proposed gate war. The second way that you mark, the second circle that you mark it.
Oh, maybe something like this would be more.
Just quick question. Do we have an engineer testifying today?
I'm sorry?
Do we have an engineer testifying tonight?
We do not.
We do not. I just want to clarify something that it wasn't written on the review letter, but it just caught my attention. So if you can, let me see if I can mark this PDF. Yeah, I can mark it. Perfect. Can you see this dashed line? I wonder if that's an easement line from the county.
It's a road widening easement. That which is one of our questions. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the road. Okay, so that's what I thought. It's not marked on the plans, but if that's a road widening easement.
It's marked on the plans.
It is. I'm sorry.
On the west side, other side of Kinderkamak, right there. That square rectangular box.
Oh yeah, thank you. Oh, perfect. Okay, so that's with much more reason than I think that an application to the county should be done, just to see if they are going to have jurisdiction over this, or just you're going to give an exemption letter, and with that the certification of the site distance just to show you what the certification looked like. It's a design certification for driveways and roadway side distance, and that includes for any improvement that you're doing within the properties that are facing any county road. That will bear some weight on the decision, and and anything that is for security for the children. Going back to the site plan. Yes, so we're concern is this specific point. Let me see.
Right.
This specific point right here.
Okay.
And Tom, Mr. Barrett, you're willing to work with the borough engineer to potentially adjust that once you get the word from the county on the
Correct.
site?
Yes.
Anything further, Mr. Barrett?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Behrens, can I turn back to you for any additional questions you may have?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think their presentation was pretty thorough as to, why they're making the request. Mr. Barrett addressed some of my questions and comments in my review, which I'm just going to breeze through to see if need to touch on anything. So I'm just going to go numerically. So I did have a question about compliance with prior approvals. Why don't we save that till the end? I think it's more productive just to stick with the fence. I did have a question about access. The applicant discussed how that would be managed. Certainly, we wouldn't want a situation where the fences are closed at any point and would create a traffic backup on Kinderkamak. But I think I'll defer to the board. But it sounds like you've addressed that as far as how the fence would be managed. Certainly, you don't want to create any issues for your people coming to school. So understood. Site distance, I don't know what the answer to that is. It seems like we're going to work that out. Maybe it's not even an issue. Maybe it is. But again, we'll let the engineers in the county weigh in on that. And then just getting to fencing, understanding the security need, it is a very visible site in the community. It does have a very long frontage, over 400 feet. So the hope is that we could try to balance the security need and try to soften or, enhance the streetscape, at least as far as, the public is concerned and passersby. So some suggestions were for consideration to, where feasible, to maybe bring the fence back a bit further from Kinderkamak Road, again, where it makes sense and can remain functional. And I think that would allow an opportunity for some amount of landscaping in the form of either street trees or something, again, just to soften the appearance. I do think it's going to be a dramatic visual impact, but it may not be something that we can change too much, frankly, but just throwing it out there again for consideration. And I mean, beyond that, those are really the issues. So I don't have anything further at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Depkin, any comments? You're muted. Steve, you're muted.
I think he's trying to find.
Nothing further, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Flores, any additional questions?
Just one more question, just to take in consideration. We know we're doing this for the children. I'm a board member myself in the city of Englewood, so anything for the kids is good. The only thing is the bollards that are currently facing the frontage are gonna stay, or are they gonna stay? Okay. So the only comment that I have is just work it out with the fence at side distance and make sure the trees are not being impacted, because I see there are numerous trees in there as well. That's it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just before we go on, and maybe this would help the board questioning. So just two more questions. Just to be clear, the fence is to be black. That's the proposed color, black aluminum. Okay.
Yes.
And I guess the question I would ask the applicant at this juncture before the board weighs in, is there any opportunity to set back the fence on any of the 3 segments? I think we resolved the one nearest the post office, that it would sort of hug the 30-foot setback and be parallel. I think that's a fair solution. I'll defer to you guys about the middle segment. I think what we've heard is that there is no opportunity from a functional standpoint. I'll leave that as it is. And then
Because of the grade. But I think, Rabbi, we discussed we'll call it the northerly section.
right.
There's an opportunity there, right, to set it back a little bit further?
The grade is not as steep there, and we can probably set it to match what we have on the south side. Probably.
That'd be great. Or by some amount I think any amount would be helpful, again, for the purposes of softening it, landscaping it, whatever the case may be. And then I guess the third question would be, is there any consideration to adding some landscaping in the front yard where feasible and in a reasonable way?
We can certainly try. I know, you and I walked last time when we did the solar panels. We found, I think, suitable solutions in terms of the shielding of the parking lot landscaping. I believe we actually did try to do landscaping for our bollard installation as well. We had several arborvitaes and some bushes that did not make it through the first couple winters, unfortunately. But we also have some trees and bushes already there. Maybe we can set the fence right behind them. I'm happy to walk with you again if you felt it would be helpful.
I appreciate that. And to that end, there's a very wide spectrum of what can be done from a landscaping standpoint. So if the board has any feeling about what they might like to see, if it moves that way, then be good to get some direction on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Let me turn to the board now for questions. Mr. Gibbons, can I start with you?
Sure. I just have one practical question as a parent. Is there going to be some sort of intercom system or camera system at the ingoing gate? So when, kid doesn't come with his math book, the parent needs to get onto the campus. How's that going to be handled?
Sure. Yeah, the plan is to have a gooseneck intercom box where if they're a teacher, they'll be able to swipe their key fob. The gate will open automatically. If they're a parent, they'll ring the bell. Similar to how we actually have at the front door now. They ring a bell and say, "How can I help you? Here to drop off Jimmy's lunch, here to pick so-and-so up for a doctor's appointment. So-and-so forgot their backpack," whatever. And then either a member of our security team or our front office will buzz them in through the gate, direct them into the parking lot to come into the main entrance.
And would there be a camera of some sort so you can see who actually is sitting there?
Correct.
Okay. That was the only question I had. I do think we should do something with that egress, of making sure that line of sight is safe. But otherwise, those are the only questions I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Ms. Boland.
Yes, same questions with the site distance. I don't want to keep repeating it. I know, like for a vehicle coming, there's plenty of site distance because it's a right turn only. But as far as the pedestrians, I don't think there's a set standard, but we would still have to make sure it's safe. So I think deferring to Mr. Costa's office to make sure that there is whatever the distance is that makes it that more so that the vehicle can see the pedestrians. And what that distance is, I don't know it either.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boland. Mr. Pfeffer.
Yes, thank you. So I'll start off just by seconding what everyone else is saying about the sightline issue. And I do agree with Mr. Barron's suggestions about just seeing how much we can pull back that fence from Kinderkamak if feasible. And of course, working with the county, the planning board, to just see what's practical in terms of pulling it back to some degree, and doing the landscaping. The idea of having a 400-foot long black fence gets me a little bit nervous right along Kinderkamak Road, which is our main drag in town. So, from a safety point of view and also an aesthetics point of view, I think we really should make every effort to pull it back a little bit and also work on the landscaping aspect. I did have a couple of questions about some of the testimony, and I may have heard this wrong, so I'm just asking for clarification. At the end of Mr. Jurgensen's testimony, I heard something about the electrical, and it sounded like the fence would have some electrification. Am I wrong about that? It's not an electrified fence, right?
No, can you hear me?
Yes, okay.
Okay. No,
That's,
the fence is not electrified. No, this is for the gates. You know, the electricity and the intercom, the Cat 6 or Cat 5. Yeah, that's gonna be for the gate operators only. It's not gonna be an electrified fence.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Unless you want one, then, you know, then never mind.
That wasn't my suggestion, no. Another question, is there any issue of, or has anyone looked into the issue of there being any kind of fire hazard, in the sense of, I'm thinking of a situation where there's a fire or some other situation in the building where people need to escape the grounds quickly and get off the premises quickly. If that fence is closed, how is that going to be dealt with? And anybody who wants to answer that.
I actually spoke to Chief Schlossberg about this while they were at the school the other night doing their drills and training. And I believe it actually should be reflected on the drawings that were submitted. And if not, we can clarify, but there are egress gates out. As you've probably seen in Kinderkamak, we do our mandated fire drills many times a year, and we would ensure that the gate would always allow crash bar egress access out. Obviously that's, you know, per fire code. He had some suggestions about where specifically the doors would go. One on the far northwest side, one that I know is delineated was just in the drawing a minute ago, up towards Kinderkamak. And then obviously towards the parking lot side, towards the east side of the property, we already have those two egress gates out both on the north and south side. So yes, I did discuss it with Chief Schlossberg. Happy to, you know, revisit with him on his suggestions as to where the best places to put those egress gates are. But yes, it was brought up.
Okay, thank you for that. Last question, and I'm sure this was looked into already, but just to get it on the record, if there, God forbid, is any kind of incident at the premises, the thought that crosses my mind is that you're going to need to have law enforcement and others be able to monitor the building from a distance, potentially. Does that 6-foot high fence create any kind of impediment, or how does that get dealt with in that kind of situation, where it's not a matter of ingress or egress, but a situation where the building has to be monitored from a distance?
That might be a good one for you, Mr. Starost.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
As far as if there was say a hostage or a standoff at the school, perhaps, normally all assets from the county, whether it's the RST, the regional SWAT team, or even local assets, would be doing that from inside the school. Protocol from the county is that there's ever an incident at the school, law enforcement shall make entry as quickly as possible into the school. So warm zones would be set up inside the school, a cold zone set up inside the school, but a hot zone would be dealt with inside the school property itself. So monitoring from a distance, I can't think of an opportunity or a reason where that would have to be done. The campus is so large that a portion of the school can be used for a CP easily, while another one is being worked at.
Okay. All right. Appreciate the answer. I have nothing else. Thank
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Mr. Kanigo.
Thank you. Mr. Pfeffer said the fence made him a little nervous. It makes me more than a little nervous. I'm terrified that this is going to look like a jail when we're done. It's going to look terrible. Better than a chain link fence, I'll give you that. But I'm scared of the way it's going to look. And then I said to myself, obviously, well, safety is number one. We have a lot of schools in town, and this is one of them. But how's a 6-foot fence really going to serve this purpose? I mean, I understand it's more than a 3-foot fence. But if somebody really wants to be an aggressor here, 6-foot fence is not going to stop anybody. I mean, I'm in my mid-50s. I can climb a 6-foot fence in a couple of minutes. Somebody who's younger and wants to do harm, the fence is really not going to serve this protective purpose. If it's open at all other times, then there's going to be access by cars and so forth to the inside areas. So it's not going to protect you from, you know, God forbid, terrorists wanting to do something terrible. So I just don't see how the 6-foot fence all around is going to do much more than just segregate the school from the community. And basically provide false protection, because anybody who really wants to do harm, the 6-foot fence is not going to stop him. And I can't believe, like, I can't see how it would. And even reading some of the submissions, I saw we were given one packet that was all blacked out. Does somebody remember what that was?
That was the security assessment by the prosecutor's office. And that
Right. So
most of it was redacted because it's not relevant to the issue of the fence.
No, that's understandable. But the one portion that wasn't redacted was number 6, fencing. And in there it says, it is important to recognize the fencing provides very little delay when it comes to motivated aggressors, but it can act to a psychological deterrent. I don't see how anybody who really wanted to be an aggressor against children is going to look at this fence and go, oh, never mind, forget it. You know, I'll put my guns away and stuff. So I understand the reasoning behind it. You had said, somebody testified earlier, we looked at some other measures, or some other measures were discussed, but we weren't told what those other measures are. Maybe they would serve the same purpose without putting this barrier between the school and the town and everybody else that is going to be ever present, because when the summer and people are out of school, this fence is still going to be there. Sure, it may be open. It's still going to be this not visually attractive. And again, better than chain link fence. So if that's our only option, that's fine. But it's still not going to be a visually attractive sight for anybody going through our town. And we don't need, you know, the town to get uglier. I mean, that's part of the land use board's, you know, mandate, to keep this town charming. So, you know, in my mind, the 3-foot fence really is going to serve the same kind of deterrent as a 6-foot fence. It keeps people out, but it's not this overwhelming structure, you know. And I think we're being asked for the variance from the 3 to the 6 foot, because I think you could just put the 3-foot fence in. And I would say reconsider, see what other measures you put the 3-foot fence in, see what other measures can be applied to increase the safety, be it cameras or other surveillance. I mean, we live in an incredible technological age in that sense. And, you know, don't put this giant barrier between us and the school, the community and the school. And just driving down Kinderkamak, I can just imagine this, you know, in the winter, when there's no leaves on the trees, it's gonna look like a jail. That's what
Well, it's going to be, it's going to have, you know, the two setbacks that we've already discussed on the north and the south ends. It's the center part where the fence has to be closest to the road. But the other 2 sections, they can be pushed back, and there's room there for landscaping as well to soften it. So it's not going to be a straight run.
I think they tried the landscaping. What happens is in the winter, the salt and the road, the machines that take care of the roads end up destroying the trees that are planted near the road. And that's the practical reality. So we can say, yeah, we're going to put landscape in, but what's going to happen 3 years from now, the same thing's going to happen. The trees are not going to be there. They're going to be dead. And what we're going to have is what looks like a jail, everybody driving by. Oh,
I think, again, it's going to be set back further than the existing trees that are there now. The fence
Trees
itself.
don't make you think of a jail, Mr. Barrett. I mean, a iron bars make me think of a jail. I don't know what it makes anybody else think of. Same with the chain link. I mean, chain link makes me think of the DPW yard, and we don't want it to look that way either. So, you know, I think the 3-foot fence is still going to provide you the psychological deterrent, but not quite the same. Then behind the 3-foot fence, you can put some arborvitae or other trees that can, you know, further shield, but it doesn't look so stark, so dreary. We don't need that in River Edge. I really don't. So if there's, I mean, if there's, I don't know. That's my thought. So thank you for your time.
If I can interject.
Sure.
Um, like I said, geopolitical factors being considered. I already said that a fence is a deterrent, right? It's not the be all to end all. We talked about, 3-foot fence and how easy it would be, or 4-foot fence to get over that fence. It's going to be difficult to stop a true believer. Someone that's has a penchant to cause maximum amount of damage, right? As we've all watched in horror, not this past September, but the September before, when Israel was attacked, Israel was surrounded by fences. They got over fences. They flew over fences, gliders, the whole 9 yards. So a truly motivated individual to be able to get onto the school property, 6-foot fence isn't going to stop them. But that's where you have the security device, right? The 6-foot fence will stop your casual person, maybe of just thinking about going there and seeing what kind of damage they could do short term. This 6-foot fence will prevent that from happening. This fence would just be the first barrier.
Have there been instances of that?
What's that, sir?
Have there been recent upticks and instances of that against this particular property?
Not to my knowledge, so no. But this is one of the ones. This is one of the locations that is on the terrorist watch list in the county, and is constantly patrolled by the RST and the sheriff's department.
Again, I'm not arguing with that. What I'm arguing with is that the 6-foot fence is not actually going to serve the purpose that is being brought before this land use board. And the reality of it is what we're going to be left with is what looks like prison bars along Kindercamack Road. Okay. And ultimately, if somebody really wanted to cause the kind of harm that you're trying to prevent, the fence is not going to do it. Okay. 3 or 6-foot fence. Okay, and this casual destruction that you're talking about, it doesn't sound like there's been any sort of uptick. And yeah, I understand the world is volatile. It's been volatile for a long time,
With the old protests in Teaneck and in Englewood right in our backyard, that would keep protesters from actually walking onto the property.
So
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Food for thought.
Mr. Kanigo, Mr. Pfeffer?
Yeah, thank you. And this is a question just pertinent to this dialogue that's going on. There are certain, and I'm not a landscaping expert, but I'm looking for a way to, to try to get everyone comfortable on this project. There are certain trees and flora in town that are less susceptible to the elements in winter. I know in my own backyard, I have a nice row of evergreen trees that never seem to wear out no matter what the weather is. Can we specify as a condition for approval something more than just landscaping, but something that would require that whatever landscaping is chosen has to be of a year-round nature? And I can foresee, I mean, I definitely, I mentioned it myself, so I definitely sympathize with Mr. Chinigo's concerns, although I'm not at the point where I will object to the project or object to the application on those grounds. But since that is a concern, the aesthetics is a concern, can we condition this upon doing landscaping that's all season, permanent, year round? I know that there are ways to do that. I'm not the expert to consult on that, but I do know just from my own experience that there are ways to do it. So I would just suggest that.
just to clarify, Bruce, what I was talking about was the salt in the winter. What happens is it gets spread to, obviously the sidewalk and so forth. But to clear the streets, right? It gets spread out.
Yep.
Hits the trees and it kills them. That's what's killing the trees. I'm sure they tried to plant the correct trees there. It's just that they get killed, and we face the same thing in River Edge. Long Howland, plantings were made, and DPW came to us and said, don't make plantings there, because what happens is we spread the salt, it kills the trees. So
Yeah.
the only thing that's going to live there is grass. That's the
But this-
practical reality. That's all I was saying. But just to
But
clarify.
this would, what I have in mind, that this would be an obligation of the yeshiva to maintain it. And so if the trees die, they have to replace them. If there's a way to protect the trees, with some sort of protection around the roots of the tree, that's up to them.
So if I may, if the board adds as a condition of any potential approval, landscaping needs to be maintained, it needs to be maintained for as long as the project is in existence. So if the landscaping dies after 1 year, then the yeshiva is going to have to figure out a new plan. One of my suggestions might be that in addition to working with the board planner, would the applicant consider working with I don't know if the borough has a shade tree commission
There's a shade tree committee.
committee. Maybe
So
they
it has,
work with.
we have a shade tree advisory committee, but essentially, that's being run by DPW. So that would then be in collaboration with Superintendent Melito.
Would that be agreeable, Mr. Barrett?
How about if we finish getting comments from the other board members first before we come to some kind of decision? Would that make sense?
We can do that too. So let's hold on to that thought for the moment. Continue going along here. Mr. Mayor, questions, comments?
Yes, a couple of things. I was looking at the concept drawing from Fiverr. It looks like Fiverr. And it appears from the concept drawing that the 6-foot black aluminum fence would completely surround the property. But I'm looking at the blueprints, or well, whatever you call them, and it seems like it ends at a certain point on the pushback. So is the fence only to be placed from in the front half of the property, or will it go all the way around, or is it going to stop where there already is existing fence? So I'd just like some clarification on that if I could.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's only going to be on the front of the property. We already have existing fencing on the other 3 sides. The renderings, I guess the graphic artist got a little too enthusiastic. No, but the project will just be the front side as enumerated in the actual submitted plans.
So Rabbi Claire, the existing fence that it will be linking up, that it'll be matching up to, is it already 6 foot?
Yes.
Okay. Rabbi and others, I like the idea of the setback to the what's called the setback line on the drawings in the north and the south. I think that would offer symmetry. I have a question. It's a clarification question. It seems to me, from the way I'm looking at the drawings, that the aluminum fence will go behind the ballards in every case. Correct? Good. I'm concerned about the standpipe water vault. The standpipe, as I'm looking at a Google map, seems to be right where the fence is going. I assume that the fire department looked at that and there was some understanding about how that standpipe and the fence would not impede the access and the use of that standpipe. Is that correct?
Yeah, and we can get further clarification of whether they'd rather it on the inside, the outside. We can make that modification without issue.
Okay, so that, because I would hate for this fence to go up and then there's an issue and they can't access the standpipe without destroying the fence.
Absolutely.
And also that would slow down the fire response. So, as I said, I'm comfortable with the north and the south part being set back to the what's called the setback line on the drawings. I think that would offer symmetry. I hear what Mr. Canigo is saying, and I do understand that concern. But as a retired teacher, I also understand that deterrents come in many levels. And some of them would discourage, say, a high school or a young adult who have often been shooters. They're looking for an easy target, a soft target. The harder you make the target, the more they move on to something that seems a little bit easier to get to. And to slow access to the property, I think, is a good thing. So I would have to say, with just the questions of sightline that Mr. Bering brought up, and with some sort of landscaping that kind of diminishes the prison fence feeling that Mr. Canigo brought up, that I could strongly support this proposed variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman.
Thank you. I sympathize too a lot with what Mr. Chinigo pointed out to us. There's all kinds of technology, I think, available for security purposes, including cameras, motion detectors, probably provide quicker and earlier warning systems. And a fence is just a fence, you know, like we all acknowledge, it's easily penetrated or bypassed. So, you know, I am very concerned about the aesthetics. I think some great points were raised about the challenges with landscaping. There are other things that can be done to improve the aesthetics of a fence besides just landscaping. You know, non-living types of aesthetics, right, can be added to a fence. So I'm kind of leaning towards wanting to hear about what the yeshiva has done to explore use of technology other than a fence. And beyond that, I would just point out, I noticed the main access to Kinder Kamak on the plans, it looks like a double leaf swing gate that's swinging out. And I just want to suggest, if this does go forward, looking at a slide gate instead of a double leaf swing gate. Partly for just safety, but also the line of sight issues.
I believe, Rabbi, if you could confirm this, that it is a slide gate.
That's not what shows on the plans. It shows a double leaf swing gate.
It's going to be a slide gate, though.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So I don't know if Mr. Barrett, I don't know if you or the applicant has a response for Councilman Glass's other question.
And I'm not sure what you mean by non-living. I'm not sure.
No,
what you mean.
I mean, the question more like, thank you.
Oh, about the technology with regards.
Yeah, what technology? I mean, there's motion detectors, there's cameras. It sounds like you have a good presence on site with respect to security. You have security professionals. You know, there's a lot of protection in place already. Maybe it's a matter of there's other ways to enhance security. I mean, if you have, I would think continuous motion detection, continuous cameras across the whole perimeter of the property, and someone's receiving alerts, able to respond quickly, that might in fact be more effective. I don't know, I'm not an expert in security, than having a fence that can be penetrated, bypassed, jumped over, you know, easily, potentially, not serve the purpose I think that you're seeking.
I'm happy to.
So, you know, what type of study or analysis, you know, obviously you have onboard security experts. What type of analysis did they do to explore those alternatives?
Sure. So I'm happy to speak.
And what are the relative risks? I mean, you know, did someone evaluate, a professional evaluate whether a fence really will enhance the security and provide that much more safety for children and investing in the other alternate types of technology that are less intrusive. You know, I mean, having the fence there, that allows the person to plan, right? They know the fence is there. Maybe if you have less intrusive hidden types of security, it creates greater safety. Again, I don't know. I just like to know what type of analysis. You have a high level professional with expertise in that.
Yeah, happy to speak to yeah, absolutely. So just to speak to that point, so Joe Starost, as his capacity of lieutenant in the River Edge PD, he, along with Bill Stallone, the chief prosecutor's office, came and did what's called a VRA, a vulnerability and risk assessment. And part of that assessment is them walking the property and assessing where our threat levels lie. So over the past 15 years or so, we've had several of these assessments done. And there are different levels of, like you mentioned, mitigation techniques that can be put in place. So one example is cameras that you brought up. And we actually have our cameras currently being viewed by the River Edge Police at all times. If you go into their dispatch desk, you'll see our cameras up on their wall. We have alarm systems, we have burglar systems, we have technology that detects firearms from a distance. We have license plate scanners. We've significantly invested in our digital security footprint. It's an unfortunate reality of running a school, especially a private and religious institution, that we're required to do this. We have put in a significant sum of money into enhancing these security setups in addition to our physical security presence, including our security guards. But at the end of the day, the final remaining piece that was actually among one of the first suggestions years ago that we never had the opportunity to do was a physical deterrent. And in addition to the digital deterrence and the cameras and the alarm and all the things that go into the security presence, at the recommendation of the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office and the River Edge Police Department, and of course our own in-house security team with significant law enforcement experience, their determination was that a fence prohibiting immediate access, at least to slow down or to evaluate a potential incoming, but the River Edge Police Department, we're blessed that the River Edge Police Department is within 30 seconds of our building. We've run drills and they've been at our front door within 45 seconds. The fact is that if a fence deters for even a minute, that's enough time for the police to respond. So I'm happy to let Joe speak to that a little bit more, but that we did seek the opinion of as many professionals as we could find. Of course, this is a major expense undertaking for us. We'd much rather find, more cost-effective kinds of solutions, but this was one of the ones that was really, really highly recommended and would serve a long way in terms of securing our students. So I'm happy to let Joe kind of talk to that a little bit more, though.
Absolutely. I don't want to beat this like a dead horse. We did do the security survey, numerous ones, and the missing link was always the fence. Like the rabbi said, a ton of improvements have been done to the building. The building exterior has been hardened. Absolutely. Getting into the building is no easy task. But when the weather is nice and you have a couple hundred children playing outside on the 5 outside playground areas of the yeshiva, all 3 of them within a stone's throw of Kinder Kamak Road. Anything less than a fence gives you less protection, right? You're talking about a 3-foot fence where the children 25 feet away playing in the grass on the side of the building, which is one of their the recreation areas, and you have people that are within a stone's throw of these kids. We talked briefly upon the flash mobs that would show up at temples around Bergen County with hundreds of protesters. Do you want them on the property? Absolutely not. We do not. What would a fence do? A fence would keep them from accessing the property, and at least if they tried to climb the fence, the River Edge Police Department could respond. But we're talking hundreds of protesters, and they've been quite violent in the past. And we're talking our backyard. We're talking Englewood. We're talking Teaneck. We're talking Tenafly. All the areas in the surrounding area have had violent protests within the past 6 months, 8 months. So this is not new to the area. Having a fence would separate these. Now, are these the true believers that I talked about? No, they're not. They're rebel rousers. They come from out of state looking to cause problems. Would a 6-foot fence keep those people out of the property, away from the children? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything further, Councilman?
No, I'm just thinking about the other schools in our neighborhood and that we don't have similar protection at those schools. And, You know, before, to answer Mr. Barrett's question, I was thinking there's plenty of artificial plants, right, that can survive the weather and serve a purpose outdoors that aren't living plants. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Mr. Craig.
Yeah, I guess I want to say that I kind of agree with Mr. Canigo. I'm not, I look at this description of the fencing impact from the that counterterrorism information, and it says it's going to impede observation. Well, this one doesn't, because it's not a solid fence. It can be a means to defeat standoff weapon systems. We've been told that standoffs are not going to happen. It can serve as a barrier to hand-thrown weapons such as grenades. I'm not sure a 6-foot fence stops you from throwing a grenade. I mean, so I'm not seeing the impact. And then again, it provides very little delay when it comes to motivated aggressors. So, I agree with Mr. Canigo that I'm not seeing this is going to deliver the security impact that we're being told is needed. And coupling it with the detriment to the appearance of the town, I'm very, very hesitant to say move forward with that. There is a lot of technology available. If you put a 3-foot fence in, you have a fence line. You can do fence line analytics. You can identify instantly a human breaching that fence line. You can have SMS alerts the instant that happens. There's a tremendous amount of artificial intelligence and analytics that are available in the video technologies that can be brought to bear on this type of situation. And I guess I would rather see that type of solution than the fence, at least the way it's being presented. I do have one question. I know that the fence is black, and I think that even stands out more. Even from the standpoint of softening it, if we were going to put in, whether it's a 3-foot fence or a 6-foot fence, it's black aluminum. Are there other options? Are there ways to soften the appearance even from a color standpoint?
Yeah, sure. This is it's factory made. It can be designed in several different finishes. It can have ornate components on top. Bulbs. I mean, I'm not a decorator, but I know there's many different options for finishing. The color, I don't know. I imagine it could be painted. But I do know that it's meant to be, the purpose of this fence is meant to be more aesthetically pleasing than, like we mentioned, a standard chain link. I'm sure I can speak to the contractor about if there's a specific style or finishing on top or the sides, or the way it's designed that would make it, twisted bars versus straight. If there was something that would be more aesthetically pleasing, I'm sure I could speak to the contractor about implementing that.
Right, but again, I think to be clear, I have reservations about the impact on the appearance of the town with the 6-foot fence. Even with softening it with colors and moving it back, and all the things we talked about, I think it is going to look stark. I think it's going to be unattractive, and I'm conflicted because I understand the security concerns you have. I don't want to make light of them, but I'm not convinced that there may not be another route. That's what I'd say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Craig. Mr. Codier?
Thank you. I share the safety and aesthetics concerns as voiced by other members. But I also had some questions about traffic. So this gate is going to open when a parent pulls up and is ready to go into the parking lot and drop their child off. Now, if the gate opens each time a new person comes up to the gate, then theoretically it would close after that person was through. How is that not going to create a traffic backup?
The testimony was that during the hours that children are entering the school, the gate is left open.
Okay.
It doesn't close. It only closes once all the children are there and school is in session.
Okay.
And what was described was if Johnny forgot his lunch or books or whatever, then the gate would be closed and the parent would have to, you used the term, Rabbi, I forget what it was, but anyway, there's a camera and they'd have to identify themselves and I'm here to drop this, whatever it is. But during general entrance times, the gate's open, it doesn't close.
Right. And is there any way that the fence could be set back a little more from the street?
I think that the central part where the main building is, the drop off is very severe right away. And again, Mr. Starrow said, you know, if you make the fence lower, it becomes easier to get over the fence, even though it's still 6 foot because of the difference in grade. That's why we said that the north and south sections of the fence, they can go back because the grade is less severe in both of those places. So in those places, yes, they can go back. It's the central part that there's really no room for it to go back.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Salva.
No, everyone's addressed my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Like several of my colleagues on the board, I'm struggling with reconciling the public safety aspects with the aesthetic aspects. And quite frankly, I don't have a good answer. I've heard the testimony, but I don't think I've seen a strong enough concept plan to address the concern. 6 feet is what's being requested here from a safety and security standpoint that seems to satisfy those concerns. But again, the aesthetic aspects, I think, are what gives me pause on how we address this, because it does ultimately, I think, in my opinion, create basically a solid wall at the end of the day of just when you're driving along Kinderkamak. And if there's I think if we have a better sense of, you know, what tangible things can be done to address that, because I don't think the conceptual plans have been submitted really contemplate or really give the board, or certainly from my perspective, give us enough of a sense to really appreciate what can be done here. But that's where I'm coming out on this at this time.
Mr. Chairman, could you give us 5 minutes so I can speak to the rabbi?
Let me do one thing, Mr.
Sure.
Barrett, procedurally. Ms. Steinle, do we have anybody in the public?
Yes, there is an individual in the public.
Okay. Let's open for public comment. We have a motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Moved.
Okay. I think I've got
Second.
I've got Mr. Gibbons on a first, Mr. Pfeffer on a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? All right, this time we are now open for comments from the public on this application. If you wish to be heard, please press to raise your hand. And I think we have.
All right, Mr. Banks, please state your name and address for the record.
Oh, can you see me? I'm actually,
We can only hear you. We can hear
got
you.
me?
Please state your name and address for the record.
Peter Hastings, 107 Adams Avenue, River Edge.
I'm
Good
sorry,
evening.
what the 107?
Adams Avenue in River
Thank
Edge.
you.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing okay. Do you have a statement to make concerning this
Yeah,
application?
I live right across the street from the yeshiva. And I was just wondering, like, has there been a threat? I mean, obviously, it seems like it's going to be a security fence. Has there been a threat to the school?
Do you have any?
You can ask all your questions now, and then we'll answer them.
Oh, all of them. Okay. Okay, and really, okay. And and again, if there has been a threat, will it be reasonable for the council to approve a 6-foot fence around my house for my safety precautions?
On our school. And on our schools.
And if there's a threat to any other school, Roosevelt, St. Peter's, will you approve 6-foot fencing around their facilities? Thank you.
Thank you. I can address that second series of questions. Each application is made individually and reviewed on an individual basis. So what the applicant is presenting here is what we're reviewing. They're asking for the 6-foot fence based on all the testimony that was provided. If another person wanted to submit an application for a 6-foot fence, the board would look at that individually and all of the testimony that was provided in that application. The other question was about a threat at the school.
So, Mr. Barrett, I don't know if you or any of the applicants.
I think that just generally speaking, I think we all recognize that the yeshiva stands differently than any other school in River Edge. And it's because they're Jewish people. That's the reality of the situation, the world we live in today, and especially in the course of the last year and a half. We've heard Mr. Starvos speak about the protests that are taking place. And, again, not taking sides or anything, but the reality is they're different. And they're looked upon differently by certain people, and they are more vulnerable than other people. And that's the reality. So specific threats, I don't think anybody called the rabbi up and said, we're going to do you harm. I think it's just, it's what we're facing in today's world, which is a terrible place to be. It wasn't where any of us were when we were growing up, and we didn't have these issues in the schools. And I don't, that's, sorry for getting carried away, but that's what we're facing.
So, Mr. Barrett, before we open to the public, I think you were looking for a brief adjournment.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do this? By my clock, I have 9:18 p.m. I would suggest that we reconvene at 9:25. Is that sufficient?
Thank you. Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I'm looking for a motion to.
I'm sorry, Chris, just before we should close to the public because
Oh, thank you.
there was only one member present.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Craig. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, we're now closed to the public. Okay. Would you kindly call the roll? We'll get back on the way.
Yes. So now it's 9:26. Mr. Mayor,
Here.
Mr. Caslin,
Here.
Ms. Boland,
Here.
Mr. Gautier,
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Here.
Mr. Cray,
Here.
Mr. Kanigo,
Here.
Councilman Glass.
Yeah.
Mr. Gibbons,
Here.
Mr. Salva.
Here.
All right, all members are present.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Chairman, I've had the opportunity to speak to the rabbi. We would like the board to carry this application so that we can attempt to address some of the comments that we've heard tonight, hopefully to convince the board to grant us an approval. And I believe, because last I heard, you only have one application on for the March 12th meeting, because we need a little bit of time to, address those concerns.
Okay, Mr. Alter, what does our agenda look like?
Hope you're unmuted.
You're on mute, Ed.
We have one application on the 12th. That's it. After that, we're all clear.
Okay. What's the next meeting after the 12th? Is it the 26th?
After the 12th is the 26th.
Okay. So, Mr. Barrett, you feel confident that you'd be ready to come back on the 12th? Or this is the 26th, give you
Well,
more time?
I'd like to have it for the 12th, and if we can't, I'll get a hold of Mr. Alter right away.
Okay.
And then push it to the 26th, but we would prefer the 12th because the time for the work to be done is really the summer when the children aren't there.
Okay. Questions from the board? Objections?
Can I make a quick suggestion? I think some really high quality renderings showing exactly what you have in mind and exactly what it's gonna look like from various points. Particularly someone walking along the sidewalk on Kinderkmack, the guy who lives across the street on Adams, some really high quality renderings of what you're trying to achieve would be very helpful, I think, for the decision making.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the board as to carrying the application? Okay, in that case, we'll take a motion then, Ms. Snively, to carry the,
Yes, we would need a motion.
okay, so.
I'll make a motion to carry this application to the March 12th meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gibbons on a first, Mr. Konigo on a second. Ms. Snively, we just do a voice or?
I can do a roll call vote, and this is to carry the application without further notice, and Mr. Barrett would grant an extension of time for the board to act.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Gautier,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kanigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Salva.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. So we will see you on the 12th.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barrett. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman,
And
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
so I'd like to just take a moment for something that's kind of old business, but might also be considered new business, if I may.
I'm just before that, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I just wanted to put the notice on, or to make the statement on the record that the application for the Rosenbaum Yeshiva of North Jersey, 666 Kinderkmack Road, Block 616, Lot 9, will be carried to the March 12th meeting of the board without further notice. So if you're here for that application, this will be your only notice that the application is being carried to the March 12th meeting.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Snively. So, Mr. Mayor, we have nothing left on the agenda, but please go ahead.
So as of today, it appears that the Borough Hall, Borough Hall looks like it's one building, but it's really an original building, an addition and addition. So where our offices are and where our chambers are is building 1 and 2, if you will, and the police department is building 3. It looks as if we will be returning to the building sometime either late March or early April. Having asked for an opinion of our borough attorney, statutory committees, boards, commissions, statutory, must be in person. So I wanted this body to understand that somewhere around probably the end of March, the beginning of April, we would be returning to council chambers, because that would require people to make changes in their plans, perhaps, as they are members of the board. So I wanted to give you as much notice as possible. The closer we get to the contractor returning the building to our possession, the more information we will be able to give you. In addition to that, I just wanted, since this may occur on March 26th, which is, I believe, the second meeting in March, I will be out of the country on that date. So I wanted the members of the board to know that if that's the date, I would not be present because I would be out of the country. And I wanted to give you fair notice.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any additional new business comments from the board? Mr. Barron's.
Real brief, Mr. Chairman. So I had sent fairly recently a draft board annual report, which covers the board's activities in 2024. Fairly straightforward. I would just offer or request if the board could come up with any recommendations that we put in it for the council's consideration. That's not to say that there has to be recommendations, but if anybody has any that they'd like for the council to consider, we could discuss at the next meeting and then seal it up for the year.
So, Mr. Alter, would you kindly put a agenda item for the next meeting to cover the annual report that Mr. Barron's has circulated?
Yes, I'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anything else before we adjourn for the evening? Okay, silence being golden, I'll look for a motion to close, please.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you, Ms. Cody. Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. We stand adjourned, 9:33 p.m.
Oh,
Thank you all.
I want
Good night,
to,
everyone.
real quick, thank you, thank you, Mr. Canigo and Mr. Gibbons for volunteering for the land use, affordable housing. Appreciate it.
I assume we'll hear from someone via an email when what we need to know.
Yes, yes.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.